Okay, I'll get started here. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming in. This is a big group, holy cow. I hope you can hear me. I'll try to keep my voice loud, hopefully it won't give out. I just set up a sound system and a PA if I'd known this many people were coming. So we're getting excited here. We are 2 weeks from rollout. It's getting close. So some of your faces look familiar from the spring meetings. Some of you are brand new. If you are new to these meetings, and especially if you're new to the district, you may want to hang around for a while for the Q&A session at the end. Okay? If you've been here for the spring meetings, this is simply an update. And it's going to be a short update. About 15 minutes, hopefully, and I'm all wrapped up. Okay, just to give you the information that we have gathered over the last couple of months over the summer. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Eric Grand. I'm the guy who's sending out all those emails from the tech department saying iPads are coming, iPads are coming. Joining me tonight, Lynn Davies, principal for the middle school, Brian Borden, dean of students for WMS. So thank you guys for coming in and supporting and everything else. Forms that were over here. Hopefully the main one, the really important one, you've seen already. And that is the acceptable use policy for this program. It should have been mailed to you, should have been sent digitally to you. Hopefully you have it. Absolutely you can turn these in tonight. So even if we're in the middle of question and answer and you're getting bored and you need to leave, just leave them right here. Ms. Davies will take them, and you're checked off and ready to go with this part for your child to be ready to come in for the program. This kind of outlines the program right here. Expectations, charges, and that kind of stuff we'll talk about in a little bit, that kind of thing. We didn't pull this out of thin air. We are modeling after Milton School District, who has gathered state recognition and now national recognition for their iPad program. And they basically looked at us and said, here's all of our stuff. Here's what we messed up on, so don't do that, and we're not. And here's what's been really successful. And they're 3 years in and doing a really great job with it, and they were great, and we owe them a lot of thanks to say thank you for just giving us your stuff and saying use it. Now obviously we tailored this to our district, but at its core, this is the same AUP that they use and require of all their families. Okay? And their middle school is equivalent in size to ours. What, a little bit bigger, 560 I think, something about that. Okay, and we spent a lot of time with them studying what they do. The other form was just for you to look at tonight. And this is one of the things, I'm going to talk about student learning stations in a little bit here. This is the iPad expectations, and even though we're hoping you're sitting down with your children and going through the AUP and talking with them about it and what that means, we will also be doing the same thing at one of the training stations that they're going to go through, and this is the form that they're going to go through with their teachers. Okay, the one that says iPad expectations. As you're leaving, if you need to, the equipment that they're getting is over here. Okay, it's all in pieces here, separate, and then this is the unit put together. Okay, so if you need to check these out, feel free to go ahead and take a look at these. This is not like the spring meetings where we had you do hands-on and we were training you on iPads and all that kind of stuff. It's just an update. Okay, just an update with some information. So let's jump right into it real quick, and hopefully I won't bore you too much here. So the news since spring, and it's trying to answer some of those questions, because I stood up here in the spring and I looked at everybody in the audience and I said, I'm not going to have all the answers. Well, guess what? We're 2 weeks from a rollout. I'm not going to have all the answers. But I got a lot more than I did back in February, March, April, and May. A lot of it had to do with financing, okay? And costs and charges to families and a technology fee and all this other stuff that was out there. And the biggest one I could tell you is we hadn't heard back from the state. So we've heard back from the state. And we went, wow. They didn't tell us a darn thing. They gave us such a mixed bag of answers, it was difficult to get any semblance out of it. And if there's any lawyers in the audience right now, I'm not angry with you, and I don't mean to put you down, but I've had to deal with a lot of lawyers over the last several months. So what we did was we took the answer from the Department of Public Instruction, and we sent it off to the lawyers and the attorneys for the Wisconsin Association of School Boards and said, can you guys give us a straight answer? And they straightened out a few things and told us some things we can't do and some things we can do based off of what the state said. And then they also said, well, there's some things we're not sure if you can do it or not. And So that's what I'm going to give you right here. First of all, no upfront cost to families. For this year, this is for the 13-14 school year, there's no upfront cost. The district is bearing out in our regular budget the cost of this entire program. All the equipment, the software, the parts and supplies that come with it, all that kind of stuff, we're taking care of it. It's been budgeted for. The school board has said, yes, we want this. It's a done deal. They better be a done deal because it's all here. And it's bought and paid for already. So there's no upfront cost. The other thing that came back from the state was, we are starting to look at these devices like textbooks because the writing is on the wall, folks. Textbooks are on their way out. And this is going to take their place in one form or another. I can't tell you it's going to be an iPad in everybody's hands, but it's going to go digital in one way or another very soon. And so what the state is doing is they are looking at these devices like textbooks. And so by laws, regulations, and general accounting practices, districts can charge for any loss or damage for textbooks. The same for these devices. And that's what's in that AUP. And so the superintendent asked me to go to, said keep the money local if you can. Now we bid this out like we have to do any regular contract. We went to some internet providers that do this stuff for repairs of iPads. We found a local company right here in our area in Greenfield that was able to match all the pricing I could get from the internet suppliers on repairs for the various parts of the iPad that might break. And they matched those prices, which was great. They signed a contract. We agreed to that pricing all the way through July 1st of next year. That's what you have sitting in front of you. We do not make a dime on any of that. That are the exact contractual charges we have. So Whitnall doesn't get any of that money. If your child breaks a screen, the cost is in there right now, and you can see it in black and white what you will be charged. It'll work the same way as textbooks. If your child loses a textbook, you are charged as a family for the cost of it. Okay? So that stuff actually got published and was sent out in mid to late June is when we got the answers on that. Okay, so hopefully you saw it back then, but if you didn't, you've got it now. Then the next question was, we had about 30% of our families that responded to a survey and said, can we buy the equipment? Can we buy from the district, use your buying power to get some discounts? We'd like to own it outright. That was the big one of the I don't know, but you better not do it, is what came back from the attorneys. There's nothing in the state laws that says we can't do it, but they said you are going to dig yourself into a hole playing around with sales tax because educational institutions don't pay it, but we do need to charge the families then if we resell it. They said, you don't want to get involved in this. It's a big, ugly mess. It's your first year doing this. Don't touch it. Might we do it in the future? Maybe. But I'd like the state to come back to me and say, it's okay. They didn't really give us an answer either way, and it was the attorneys that said, you'd be really stupid if you did this. Okay? So that's the financial end of this. Right? So we're not selling outright this year. There is no bring your own device for this. It is a district supplied device. Everybody's on the same exact device, the same platform, the same apps. Everybody starts on an even footing. Okay? And that's really what, as a district, we want. That's our goal. If we allow people to bring in your own devices, how difficult would that be for a teacher dealing with an iPad over here, an Android device over here, a newer Android device which can be very, very different looking over here, and trying to make that all function and still teach curriculum. So we're all on the same page with this. Okay? So that's the hardware and finance end of it. Teacher training. We got every single teacher in the middle school to come in for a week-long training here. We call it the iPad Academy. That was the last week of July. It was awesome. We fried their brains a little bit, that's for sure. But it was great. And they came out at the end going, hey, we now have a clue what to do. We've got lesson plans written, ready to go. And we've been trained on all of what we call the day-to-day aspects of this. eBackpack, which is our system for sharing files between students and teachers. Parents can get access to that as well. Google Apps, Google Calendars that use a family to be able to check and see homework assignments just listed on a calendar right there for you. All that stuff teachers have gotten trained on. Okay? Not that we aren't expecting some bumps in the road, of course, a big rollout like this, but it was some really intense days of training. We brought in some professionals from the industry to help train everybody. We did some of it internally as well. It's a really great week. So that training is all done, set. Teachers are ready to go. The other big question has been, especially from the 8th grade parents, where's this going into the high school? Well, the school board's already approved the one-to-one program starting next year at the high school. Exactly what that is, we don't have the details yet. We don't know if we're going to roll iPads through all 4 years of the high school. We may roll them through freshman and sophomore, and then maybe switch to full-blown laptops junior and senior year. Those decisions still need to be made. And so starting in 3 weeks, the department chairs, along with the administration, are going to start meeting to answer that exact question. Our goal is, and I told them it's got to be Thanksgiving, because they got to come back to me with an answer by Thanksgiving so I can get everything ready. We start planning for the following year already at that point. So then by February next year, we're hoping to start holding parent meetings, both at the 8th grade level here, plus with the high school parents, and then also staff training for all the high school staff by February 2014 for that program. Okay, so it gives you a little idea of where we're going. But yes, this is rolling up into the high school all the way through. So a quick little walkthrough of what your students are going to go through when they come to Whitnall Middle School. And we've changed things a little bit. It's not going to start like it did last year. And again, we're going off the Milton model because they've got this figured out. And when they first started, they rolled these things out 3-4 weeks into the school year, and it was a nightmare. Total disaster. And instead of getting this done and out of the way, they found themselves stretching this into weeks 5, 6, 7, and they're still trying to get through the technology part of it. The only way this works, ladies and gentlemen, is if the technology disappears. It's a tool like any other. You don't really think about when you pick up a pencil, right? We got to get your kids to the same point. They shouldn't think about picking up the iPad. It allows them to do a lot of stuff. It's very powerful, brings them a lot of information, but they shouldn't have to think about how to use it. And so day one when they come in, they're doing what they did last year, which is PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention System. Those of you who've been in the middle school here before already know what that is. You want to give a quick blurb, or are we good?
PBIS is essentially just training the kids our expectations for their behavior throughout the school. We're not assuming that kids come to us knowing what to do in the cafeteria or how to behave in the auditorium at a presentation. So we go through all those expectations and we train them on it, but then we also acknowledge kids when they are doing the right thing. And there's a little bit of a reward system in there that we acknowledge those kids that are doing the right thing instead of constantly doing the negative reinforcement and negatively reinforcing the kids making mistakes. We're trying to help everybody make good decisions and understand the expectations so we're all on the same page.
Okay. So they'll go through PBIS the first day, but then days 2, 3, and 4, which for all of you wondering about dates and when are they actually getting the equipment, it's September 4th, 5th, and 6th. We're going to start with the 8th grade and work down. So on September 4th, first thing in the morning, once they're in their classes and settled, we start calling up the 8th graders, alphabetically by last name, about 20 to 25 at a time. They're actually coming to this room. Let me show you a quick little diagram. Please ignore my art skills here. They're going to come walking into this room, and for lack of a better term, we're going to have these rectangular tables set up all the way down this side and down the back. We're calling it the buffet line. I don't know what else to call it. And they will come by, and there'll be adults in here. We are diverting manpower from all over the district for this, and they'll be picking up all the items that you see over there, including a sling bag that they will carry with them from class to class that will then contain all those items. So they'll be coming down, adults will be helping them, all right, one of each, down this way, down this way. They'll get around halfway over there, and then they'll run into 52 boxes of iPads. A lot of iPads. That's what you saw some pictures of earlier. They'll give their last name to the people helping out back there. They'll get their iPad. And this is that chance, so parents that were worried about how are we IDing these iPads, how are we recording it, that kind of stuff. Well, here's an actual example of one, and it's got the student's name already on the back. They've already been assigned in our electronic inventory system. Students' names are in the back. So then the student's going to go into that back corner over there where my staff will be there actually checking them out. And it's all done digitally now through other iPads. They will have their iPad with them. They'll give their name. They'll look it up, and the kids will be able to look right on the iPad that one of the staff members will have. Yep, that's my name. Yes, it matches the inventory tag on the back, and the serial number that are right on the iPad. So your kids will have a chance to double check that. Obviously there's an adult sitting there helping them, and then they will sign for it at that point. That it's all assigned to them, they have their correct iPad, we have it recorded correctly with all of its information. They'll then come back out where you are right now. We'll have tables set up out here at the chairs, and they go through some basic instruction. And so it's myself and the 2 district instructional technology leaders will be here, and we're going to walk them through actually turning this on for the first time, doing the initial setup, getting it on our district secured network, which they really need to be on to get the full resources of the district, and then also setting up their Apple iTunes ID education account. And we talked about that in the spring. It's a special account. It has no credit card attached. It's their account personally, but it's through the educational institution. Allows them to download free material, but they can't download anything paid with that account. Okay? It also has rating restrictions on it. It has the 12, they call it the 12 plus rating restrictions. So it's basically 12 and under is what it is the rating restriction on it for content. So even if they would go and put your own account in there, and that's up to the individual families, they put in your iTunes account that does have a credit card attached, and they go to download a rated R movie, the device will not let them do that. It will block that content. Okay? Same thing with games. If they're mature rated games, it'll block that content. And that is a restriction that you guys cannot lift off of there. That's imposed by us. Okay? So your kids can't go in there and mess around and pull that restriction off or anything like that. That's placed in by us. Okay? Yes.
Is there a way that the kids can, kids are very savvy. They can, like erase everything, start all over and say, hey, it's mine now, I'm going to...
They can do that. They can erase everything. The problem is it's going to make it real difficult for them to do anything because then it bumps them off our network as well. Basically restarts it back to a brand new state out of the box. They can't do anything with it here. So we're going to know about it real quick because all of a sudden they're going to be like, hey, teach, I can't get on the district network kind of thing. So it'll make it very, very difficult for them to do that. Okay? So that's checkout, initial setup. They then go into our academic support center. Mr. Borden's going to be running a group of teachers in there that then walk the kids through Google setup to make sure their email account is working correctly, make sure their password is working for that. At any point, if that doesn't work, they get sent right back in here where we've got some people here sitting ready to reset their accounts, get them functioning for email and Google Apps, that kind of stuff, because that'll become a daily tool they're going to use. Okay, so they get that all set up in there, and then they actually put the iPads into the cases. It takes time. The teachers found this out. I made all the teachers, every teacher had to disassemble and reassemble a case. And there's a reason why those things are supposed to take a drop onto concrete. They're really tough to get apart. And so that's what they do all in the Academic Support Center. Once they're done with all that, they go back to their classrooms. Once the entire grade level has their equipment, they will then shift gears for those first couple of days and begin rotating through stations. And these are training stations that they're going to go through. They have a training station on Google Apps. Actually, wait a minute, I got a slide. Instead of me just explaining all this. There we go. So these are all the stations they're going to go through. And like Milton, we want to get the techie stuff out of the way. We shouldn't have to worry about a kid getting the email 5 weeks into the school year. We shouldn't have to worry about them being able to turn their homework into e-backpack at Christmas time. That stuff will all get done in the first week of school. We asked every teacher to pick a station and become an expert in it. And they had literally time to come and ask the trainers, what do I need to do? What do I need to cover with the kids? They actually wrote their lesson plans a couple weeks ago already, and they detailed everything out. And so the goal was before they could leave that week of training, if I was the Station 4 person, I'm an expert and know exactly how to do that backwards and forwards. And those are the teachers that the kids will go to see for Station 4. And so these are all the basics that we have to cover. Station 8 and 9, digital citizenship. We run what's called the iSafe curriculum here. It's mandated by the federal government now. It's all things about being safe on social media, Facebook safety, all that kind of stuff. How to use email properly. How to not give out your personal information. What is netiquette? Okay, that's digital citizenship. They will actually get 2 hours of that and cover the bulk of that curriculum right away that first week again. So they have that knowledge. It's out of the way right off the bat, or right from the get-go. Okay? So these are all the training stations they'll go through. that's really the update, ladies and gentlemen, from spring. So if you got questions, stay and ask questions. Please be patient with me. I will stay here as late as I need to answer every one of them as best as I can. I will tell you, I don't know, might be a legitimate answer right now, okay? If you have no questions, thank you very much for coming in. All right, if you have the forms to turn in, Ms. Davies would love to take them, so we have them and get them checked off. And let's start asking some questions. Yes?
This middle school iPad expectations turned in tonight?
No, the iPad expectations form is actually covered in one of the stations where we literally, one of our teachers will sit down with your children and walk through the expectations, like, how should I handle this device in school?
So this hard copy is a reference?
Yeah, it's just a reference for you guys to see what your kids are going to be signing when they come in. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
What happens if they forget it at home?
Good question. First of all, they're going to get a little reprimand, warning at first, more serious if it becomes a daily occurrence kind of thing. We will have we have a help desk staff member who's part of my staff. We also have one of the instructional technology leaders. And between the two of them, they are pretty much assigned here all day long in this room. Their offices are actually back there. They will have a supply of spares. So the teacher will have to send them down with a pass, go grab a spare, little Johnny, don't do that again kind of thing, but go grab a spare so you can then at least continue to work and function. Oh, one thing before I forget, if you can warn your kids and even think about it tonight, because I know this is going to happen and it's going to be a real pain on our part. All of your kids, even though they don't even know how to get to their email yet, have already received an email with redemption codes for software that we are buying them. It's the only way to do this with the iTunes store and everything. So we are buying them 3 programs that we absolutely want them to have. And they're paid apps. And as long as we give them codes, that's how we supply stuff to them, even with that free account. Remind them tonight, and remind them 2 weeks from now when they're coming in, and we're going to remind them 10 times as they go through this room. Don't delete that email. Okay, the codes are specific to them. They are assigned to their name, and yes, there is a way for me to get them back, but it'll be a royal pain when we're trying to process through 500 plus kids and get them all set and ready to go. Yes?
Are there going to be charging stations at school for the kids that don't charge their iPad at night?
Yes, every classroom is getting a plate with 6 sockets in it, and it actually has 2 USB chargers in it built in already. So, and the teachers will also have a couple extra, the sync cables they're called, that do the charging in their rooms. We figure that's going to happen, but again, one of those things we're going to try to get them into the habit and the culture within the building that you are responsible for charging at night, but yes, they'll be charging in the rooms. Yes,
So their email accounts are already set up with their names and everything like that?
there are. They just don't know how to get to them.
Fantastic.
Yep. It basically works this way. It is their regular Whitnall username, so the kids, if they've been in Whitnall, before, they know what their username is already. A typical one for somebody in this building, it would be their first initial, middle initial, last name, and then the last 2 digits of their graduation year. So it might be something like J.R. Smith 22 at Whitnall.com. And so if they've been here before, they know their usernames already. Those aren't changing. Just put at Whitnall.com. That will be their email address. Passwords are changing though this year, and we'll have to walk the kids through that. Google requires longer passwords than what we had for our kids. And that's part of that instruction at the beginning, that first week, to get them on that. Yes, ma'am?
You were talking before that they'll have their name on the back of it.
Yes.
Is that also inside?
The name will be actually on the iPad device itself. That's already done. So we had student interns and my staff did that already and assigned them. And then one of the things right when they're in this library they will do is take one of those, I don't know if you guys have ever seen those silver Sharpie metallic markers that can write on black stuff. And they will, on the back, just nice and tiny in their best printing, we will have them put their full name directly on the case as well. That's in there, okay? For this year, it'll be with them for this year. We are collecting them back at the end of the year, but if they do not leave Whitnall, they will get the same device back the following year. Okay?
So that kind of goes off my question. So when and if the screen would break or the stylus can we opt out of stylus?
They'll get one from us. To be honest,
We can hide it.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, it's $16 to replace it, so he's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
So can I just hide it and return it at the end of the year?
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be $16. They're a lot
I'm pretty
cheaper
sure
than
that
that.
was.
That's what I set up.
Yeah.
Did I put $16 for a stylus on there?
Yeah, dude, why do you think we're all here?
It says three.
Hold on. Yeah, $3. There we go. Whew. Like, we didn't pay $16 for those things. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, so, I mean, certain things, so if it's cracked in the middle of the year, something happens, and it works. We don't have to necessarily get that fixed right away, we could,
The screen we would need to get replaced. Once they crack, the glass tends to keep splintering. The stylus isn't a big deal. We watched the students at Milton, and they were doing long division math problems right on their iPads. Half of them had a stylus and half didn't. They were just using their fingers, and they were getting through it just fine.
right.
So, you know,
I'm just
that,
saying,
you would
because
need to
then I
replace
wouldn't
that.
have to pay for it twice if it would happen
Right,
again. I
right.
would just pay for it at the end of the year.
Yeah.
All right, that's all for her.
Yeah.
Are you assuming it?
I am.
What if family members or whatever can't afford these, right?
It depends on your status with the federal free reduced lunch program. And so if you are free or reduced, it does say that in that packet somewhere. We have to prorate those prices down based off of your federal status. If you're free, district pays for it. If you are reduced based on your percentage, we pay that percentage down. Yeah.
But the good news is when we talked with Milton, because that was a big concern of ours, is how many kids have lost it? How many kids have damaged it? It was like 1%.
It was
You know,
less. We actually did the math.
The
It was
kids,
0.8%.
the kids really want these things, so they're going to take very good care of it. And the OtterBox is nearly indestructible. I mean, so I really think you'll be surprised if you have kids that are hard on their toys or whatever. I think they'll probably be fine.
Yeah. The breakage rate, we were shocked on the breakage rates. We brought that up in the spring and everything. It didn't matter the district that we went to. It didn't matter the device they had. The breakage rates floated between 0.5% and 1.5%. When you're talking, 500 plus devices, that's actually a really low number. So, other questions? Yes.
On the list, it said about a calculator. Is the app going to be a calculator, or do you have to buy a calculator?
We took
or
scientific
what?
calculators off of there. So, as part of, I don't know if you're new to
I am new.
Okay. Normally in the middle school list, there was a scientific calculator required, and I think for 8th grade, graphing already. Yes, correct? Those have all been removed because the iPad can replace that. We are stuck by a regulation. Trust us, we are not happy about this. Standardized testing requires that every kid have a basic 4-function calculator. That's why it's still on the list.
Okay.
Now, take this with a grain of salt, and don't string me up next year if this is not true. From what I know what's coming next year, that will get wiped away too. Because all standardized testing in the state of Wisconsin supposedly is going electronic next year, and the calculators are built right in. We've seen the demo systems of it already, and it's right on the screen for them. But yet this year, think to when we were all in middle school, high school, and had to fill in all the bubbles. They're still doing that, and they need a 4-function calculator, and it cannot be an iPad.
Okay.
It has to be that basic thing right there.
And then I had another question. I know you talked about the lost or the stolen. I mean, and you said that's a very low percentage.
Well, every
So,
kid
I mean-
has an iPad. So the motivation to steal it is very slim. Also, every iPad is inventory particular to that kid. So, I really don't think it's going to be a huge issue.
I mean, that's what I was wondering with Milton. You mentioned Milton's percentage, so.
Yeah. And that was their percentage that they gave us. I've been out to some districts on the west side of the state where they're running this program already from grade 6 all the way up through 12. They're still staying right about that same percentage. It's 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, somewhere in there. Breakage rates or theft. I mean, that includes everything. Basically, that rate they're giving me is, gone.
And sometimes so that.
Yeah.
And certainly if something happens and it was unintentional, accidents happen, we are going to take that into consideration, and, stuff happens.
Right.
Are the teachers gonna make sure these kids take these home?
That is part of the expectation that the students will need to take them home and charge them up.
No, but what I'm saying is, are they gonna
We're not
make
going to
sure-
check backpacks, but we will be reminding them.
Okay.
You know, one of the things, one last thing on the breakage thing, Milton's, we saw them when they were 2 years into the program, and they actually said at that point, the only one they had that was a total loss, that couldn't be fixed, couldn't be repaired, where it actually broke, was one where the kid decided he was going to try to use his sling bag as a baseball bat. With a ball and everything, and he apparently missed the ball, and the sling bag went into a concrete wall with that much force, and that got through the OtterBox case and actually just demolished the iPad at that point. That's the only, I mean, they were quite frank with us and said that was the only one that was completely done, that had to be replaced from scratch. All the others were repair type stuff, screens, buttons, that kind of stuff. And at that point, you got to look at the kid and go, yeah, all right, better get a job.
Right?
What about insurance? Because I know that you're able to put insurance on it, like if we purchase it.
Yep, here's what we looked at. And somebody else had asked this question as they were walking in. The Burlington School District 2 years ago bought into these huge, big time, and they forked out over 20 grand in insurance fees for 1 year, and you have to pay for it every year. And when they looked at it and said, again, this 0.5 to 1% breakage rate, they said, why did we spend all this money on insurance? We just got killed on the insurance cost.
Yeah, but are we able to put our own insurance on
You
it?
have to talk to your insurance company on that.
Well, there's a company that you can actually, it's like a $50.
There's tons of them out there.
Yeah.
And you have to ask because you don't actually own the device.
Right.
And that's what you have to ask
Okay.
on that. And some that I contacted said, yes, we would do it, and some said, no way, we would not do that. That's solely up to you guys, it's totally on your own. Ryan?
Eric, you want to just touch on filtering software at the home
Yeah.
and what they can download off the internet versus apps?
Yep.
The difference.
Much as it is in that AUP number, we should emphasize that when they are here at school, they are on our district filtered network that's in compliance with all the federal regulations, the Child Internet Protection Act, and all that kind of stuff. When they're on our network here. As soon as they leave school grounds, guess what? They're not on our network. It's open. They can get to anything they want. So again, some of the things that we say in there, and I'm glad Brian brought that up, some of the statements we make in that AUP, this iPad should be used under supervision when it's at home. This is, we don't want to intrude on the family. It's up to you guys how you allow this. I certainly would not allow my kid to take this into their room and be doing anything they want on it. Now, granted, we place rating restrictions on there, but that's only for content that comes in through iTunes and that kind of stuff. What they can get to on the internet, on your own network, or Starbucks or McDonald's if they have wireless there, that's free and public, open internet, just like you probably have at your house now. So if you allow them on a computing device now, you're going to have an iPad that they can get to that same content, whatever it is. So yes, you should be supervising, everything else. It's you should be concerned about that. Okay.
If we have software at home or K9 that we have on our home computers, could we use something like that on iPad?
It depends. If you have software running on your wireless router, and we could hang around and have this discussion later. Guy, in one of the spring meetings, I really got into this lengthy discussion, so I don't want to take up all of your time. If you have what's called filtering at the wireless level, it'll apply to the iPad, because the iPad is connected to that same wireless device. If it resides on the individual computer, which is the cheaper stuff that most people have, it will not function on the iPad, and there really isn't anything similar to it out there. So just to give you a little peace of mind there on how that would work.
What about forwarding homework to the students? Kids get some emails to do that?
Absolutely. If it can be put into an email, you bet. They can forward it over and everything else. It's just like anything that's turned in now, paper that's been done on a word processor. Teachers, look at it and generally can pick that stuff out. Is there some abuse? Sure. Cameras functioning and everything else. We have signs that are going up on all the bathroom and locker room doors here. That's in the AUP as well. It's in the expectations as well to train them. You do not take this anywhere where there's privacy kind of thing within this building. We have talked with the teachers and redone, and again, the students will get this all the first and second days of school. There'll be a policy change within the school of how they go to the bathroom. They were used to being able to go right during passing time, but now they're going to have those sling bags with them with their iPad. It's illegal to walk that into the bathroom according to the letter of the law. So they will be told, you go to your next class first, You put your materials on your desk, and the teacher will then give you a pass quickly so you go to use the bathroom. And that, this will be a school-wide message. Any questions?
How much time is there in between classes?
That's a
4
Brian
minutes?
question.
4 minutes?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier about there had been parent training in the spring. Last spring, if people are new to the district, what were the trainings? Is it something you might offer again?
If there's enough interest, we could do it again. It was simply for parents who had never touched an iPad before. So we said, make a reservation, come in ahead of the regular meeting, and literally like, here's how you turn it on. Like literally you had never touched a tablet before. And there's people who haven't, especially, you know, parents and adults. There's some of us that have never touched that. We just wanted to give a little introduction. For those that were here, it was probably, it was 20 minutes of the basics, you know, how to open an app, how to browse the web on this thing. That was it.
Thank you.
Yes. Yep. Yep. All those stations that you saw there. Yes, unless it's, we have a few very minor services left that we haven't made cloud enabled yet. If you didn't hear a question, it's a very good one. Will they be able to access the school websites at home? Obviously, if you have Wi-Fi, that would be the first thing. You have to have a Wi-Fi connection. We have really worked hard the last 2 years here at Whitnall to take any services we offered internally and move them out onto the general internet so that they are cloud-based. That's the kind of go-to term right now. That you can get to from any computer device, that kind of thing. Right now, the only thing I can think of, only service is what's called the EBSCO host, which middle school students don't use too much. It's a more high-end database for doing research that more of our juniors and seniors and AP students use, kind of thing. That you can't get to from outside the district. It's tied to our district. But everything else, we just went through a huge migration. I'm prattling on, but Follett Destiny, our library system, and we are putting on all kinds of ebooks.